we're going to move on to another Coen Brothers film. And as usual, I can't think of any linking device off the cuff, so... Oh, brother, where art thou, Scott?
Which is a film perfectly suited for me, as I am indeed a man of constant sorrow. Like all British people, we just cannot stop apologising. And fair enough, Britain has a lot of things to apologise for, but normally what British people apologise for is when someone bumps into us, we will apologise for having been bumped into. Yes. So this 100% literal adaptation of Homer's Odyssey sees George Clooney, John Turturro and Tim Blake Nelson make a break for freedom from a chain gang as Clooney's loquacious Ulysses Everett McGill promises to share a portion of some buried ill-gotten treasure with Pete and Delmar if they help him get to that location before it is flooded by a soon-to-be commissioned dam. To be honest, if you try and recap succinctly the plot of Oh Brother, you will just sound like a madman in the throes of a fever dream, so best just to call it a road trip, in which scarcely believable events happen to our leads that will see them accidentally become phenomenally successful recording artists, put them into a tight spot, test their hair care regimen, test the bonds of their family and friendships, and have John Goodman smack him in the face with a tree branch. Now, I loved Oh Brother back at release. I don't think I've actually watched it in the interim. In the main, that's because that first run through did a pretty bang-up job of imprinting itself on me, to the point that I'll often think back to the outright weirdness of having that weird in a tight spot phrase as a running joke for 2 minutes, and then dropping it, or indeed buying a t-shirt featuring McGill's preferred pomade solution.
Are you a Dapper Dan man, Scott?
Of course, I'm not a monster.
You don't want fog, damn it.
I'm gratified to find myself just as entertained this time round, with excellent performances, all round and sharp, but tightly honed dialogue that makes it exceptionally easy to pass time with these characters as they are swept along on their journey. Sure, it doesn't make a great deal of sense, but when it's this much fun, I'm not that bothered. I suppose the strongest inspiration that it takes from Odyssey is, well, the form. This is a myth of the American South in the Depression, not a documentary, so perhaps it could be said to capture an emotional, if not a literal, truth. I'll leave that to the comparative historians. I'm just a boy speaking on a podcast recommending that you watch this, in the unlikely event that you have not yet done so. As for your boy Deakins, he's really dropped the ball on this one. Looks terrible. Hang on, wait, no, the opposite of that. I regret the error. Yes, it's never less than pretty, and all of the presumably highly graded sun-dappled golden hours and dreamy sequences of moments of, let's say, heightened reality go by, and it's a delight to watch, even with the audio off. Although, obviously, you shouldn't do that because of the excellence of the dialogue and the superb soundtrack. So, yes, it's just very, very good.
Yeah,
watch it.
I genuinely love this film.
Mm-hmm.
I have watched it multiple times since seeing it in the cinema, almost certainly with you and Craig. Mm-hmm. And I also actually didn't need to do that again, because that it just almost immediately went straight into the same part of my head where the Big Lebowski lives. Yeah. Just like permanent storage. And there's so much of that film from the very beginning I remembered, and I don't want fop, damn it, I'm a Dapper Dan man, and my hair, we're in a tight spot, and just straight in there. Yeah. And, oh, George, not the livestock. And I hate cows more than I could go. Also, possibly the best off-camera cow sound ever used in cinema at the end with George Nelson. Yeah. And somebody just screams, "Cow killer." I knew this film was for me the very first time I watched it, when it got to just like 2 or 3 minutes into the film, when the three main characters appear in the middle of a cornfield in their prison duds, jump onto the moving train, and George Clooney stands up and goes, "Any of you boys Smiddies?" Oh, if not Smiddies per se, are you otherwise skilled in the metallurgical arts? And I thought, right, okay, I like this film already. This is amazing. It's their dialogue, the Coen Brothers dialogue, is just so incredible. And I think what perhaps people don't realise too is how precise they are.
Yeah.
The Big Lebowski is an amazing film and great performances, but every and every even is scripted. It's crazy. Although they very often write with an actor in mind as well, which helps. And this is just such a great film. The soundtrack's amazing. It looks incredible. And I think this is probably the film where I first really thought about the cinematography of anything. Yeah. In terms of who is this person? I'll look them up. Because it was 2000, so really starting to get into cinema and to think about it in a more critical way rather than just, this is a good film.
Yeah.
And this is almost certainly the film where I first really thought about it and looked up and came across the name Roger Deakins. It's got a kind of washed out, bleached look, which fits the time and place. It's just such an entertaining film.
Yes.
I don't know what to say other than just rambling on. I really like it, but I really like it. Yeah. It is another of those films you could just listen to it. The dialogue and the music is so good, but you'd of course be missing out on some of the delights, and some of that are to do with the performances that Coen brothers get out of their actors too. Something I've noticed more recently, I've come back to watch Coen brothers films, is just something the facial expressions.
Yeah.
And the way they just focus on them. In this film, there's a particular scene where Pappy O'Daniel is talking to his idiot son and his idiot advisors, and they're talking about how they're going to get their behinds paddled, and Charles Durning is just sort of gapes them open mouth, and it just for ages it just stays in his face. It's a wide shot, but not a medium shot, but he's just, his cigar is slowly dropping out of the side of his mouth, and he's gaping at these people like, why do we employ these idiots? And the film and the Coen Brothers films in general are full of little moments like that that are just, they're just absolute delights, and it's why you could just go back and watch Coen Brothers films over and over and over, as long as it's not the Lady Killers. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is appalling. I've definitely thrown myself off track with that. Watch this. Was that where it was? Probably. I've probably said that 8 times already, as is my usual thing. That every time I start a podcast, I'm not going to do my usual thing of repeating myself all the time. And every time I find that I've repeated myself all the time, it's really annoying and I can't make myself stop it. I'm broken inside.
Yeah. This is the last of the Coen Brothers collaborations that we're mentioning in this one, but we should at least throw out The Man Who Wasn't There as a honourable mention. We've covered that in a podcast past him, but yes,
it also looks amazing.
Yeah, it also looks absolutely incredible, and well worth a BAFTA that you got for that one. Yes, and as entertaining a film as this in a number of levels, obviously a very different style, but yeah, Oh Brother, Poor Art Thou, if you somehow haven't seen it, you absolutely should. Yeah.
Also, I suppose we're back on the slightly goofy John Turturro performances.
Yeah.
He's incredibly entertaining at that. And John Turturro dancing in a ZZ Top style beard with his dungarees on, and kind of just like, I actually don't know what he's doing, sort of walking in place, but with these shoulders moving. Yeah. Like, you need to watch this because it's just so odd but brilliant.
Yes.
Yes. Once again, we're saying it's awfully good. And I know I'm definitely repeating myself this time. Somebody shoot me, please.